And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
You're probably wondering on which camp I'm going to come down on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the real question, right? We've set it up, we've teed it up. And to be honest, Steve, listen, I completely agree with Mark. That's true. I go for laughs sometimes, Mike, and sometimes I flip the switch and I get fucking serious.
Good evening and welcome to Is It a Bicycle? Season 7, Episode 22, the original and bestest ever TV and movie podcast. My name is Stephen Wrigley and I'll be your host for this evening. Beside me is a man who says he remembers when going viral meant having to tell several people they better get tested. It's Mike, the McDonough. Live from Vegas, we have a man who read the headline that bad drivers were to be fined €100 and thought it was very sexist indeed. It's Sean. I look at Leonard. And it... Sean is going to love that one. And in the red corner, it's our cuddly killer, a man who always reads his wife's horoscope to see what kind of day he's going to have. It's Mark, superhero.
That's good.
This week, we hope to discuss some movies in the shape of To Be Takei and some TV in the form of Survivors, Remorse, and The Comeback. Also, we'll have a look at some previews and Coming to a Bicycle near you. So, how are we doing? Oh, we're all fabulous, are we?
Wasn't sure who that was directed at, Steve. I'm doing pretty good.
Good stuff. What you see this week that wasn't on the list, Mark?
I saw The Best Man Holiday.
The Best Man Holiday. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Basically, there are a bunch of people who used to be friends when they were younger. They're not actually friends now, but to further the need for comedy, they decide to all get together at Christmas time around the holidays. And hilarious events ensue. Not a bad film. I have a funny feeling it's a remake of something. I think it might have been made like years ago.
Right. Doesn't ring a bell.
And somebody put new shoes on it. Rebooted it, if you like. But it's not fantastic. It's a little bit contrived. The performances individually are good. The script was my problem because when you hate somebody, you don't spend Christmas with them, even if they're family, right?
Yeah.
And these people were not related. They really despised each other, but think it's a good idea to all stay in the same house for a week.
Right.
And I was just kind of going like, and everybody was everybody's ex, and there was half of them are divorced, and I was just,
so contrivance from the get-go.
Yeah, contrivance upon contrivance. But I have seen worse films. If I was marking it on this very podcast, I'd probably give it a 5. It's an average film.
Sean, you saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well,
no, that was me.
I think someone else saw that recently. I also have seen it.
Oh yeah, Mark.
Along with half of the North American population.
Yeah, so I was the only bicycaster that hadn't seen this. And
apart from I just saw it last week. So.
Oh, did you not seen it either?
No.
You were waiting for the DVD release along with me. Well, we're getting a kind of an interesting perspective then, because this is a very much after the fact review, and not seeing it in the cinema, I presume, does it a disservice. But I didn't like it.
Mark.
Yeah. I know. And maybe it's because it was built up so much by this very fucking podcast. But I was sitting in and I argued staunchly with my wife that this is the film we should watch on a Friday night, now that the working week is over, because it was going to set the tone for our weekend. And apparently the tone of last weekend was bitter disappointment. Which I continued into the bedroom later that night. So, no, I didn't like it, guys. I didn't like it. I didn't think Star-Lord was on point comedy-wise.
Yeah.
I felt like he was trying a bit too hard.
The trailer led us to believe it was a funnier movie than it was, I think. The trailer was very, very, very good, But no, Shona led me to believe it was funnier than it was. Because I really enjoyed the review you guys did of it. And after listening to it, I said, man, it's such a pity I've missed it in the cinema. I can't wait to see this on DVD. Turns out you guys are assholes. But no, it sounded really funny the way Shona described it. And there's one particular scene where she talks about Batista's reflexes. Mm-hmm. And maybe I think it was funnier the way Shona told the joke, to be honest. All right.
Or maybe your reflexes are so slow you just still haven't got it.
It could be that, man. Could be that.
Anyway, it's like a disappointed 6 for me.
Yeah.
I've even seen better superhero movies.
Because I had you down on my list to get a raccoon doll.
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to have to cast a wider net, Michael.
Yeah. What am I going to get from Mark? God damn it.
So, who saw Too Many Cooks? Who went and watched this 11 minutes of surrealism?
I went and watched the 11 minutes of surrealism.
And did you think it was surreal?
Well, let me tell you.
Tell us about it. Tell the people who are listening about it first, if they haven't heard of it.
So, Too Many Cooks. It opens like an old family TV sitcom would, where all the characters like walk in and then freeze frame, and the actors' names, are emblazoned in front of them in an old-timey, presumably yellow
80s,
font.
yeah.
Don't know if you've noticed, a lot of fonts are yellow in the old days.
Yeah.
And the theme song plays over like too many cooks, and 'cause then there's too many cooks, too many cooks, and that just keeps happening. And it keeps happening until you've introduced about 15, maybe 16, 17 characters, and then they all get together on the couch, for the family photo. Oh, they took the photo and Dad's out of position. Oh, now we're looking forward to watching Too Many Cooks. Oh, too many cooks. And then they introduce many more characters. It starts to get creepy. A character appears in the background long before he actually makes any activity, like motions to anyone, but he's there. You can watch it a couple of times because it's weird how far back in the video he is seated. It then enters realms of different types of TV shows, like old-timey space adventure family TV shows, cop shows with stern desk sergeants, fire shows. Basically, any show that has Chicago in front of it, it's probably being parodied in this.
Yeah.
And then things go shit haywire. It becomes an absolute clusterfuck trying to keep track of what's going on, and it manages to form its own complete reality over and over again, and then break it and fuck with you like that. And it's really good. It's really funny.
It does all this in 11 minutes?
Yeah, you haven't seen this?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's brilliant. It's really, really good. It's like the guys who made it, they're even so surprised that it was actually shown on Adult Swim at 4 a.m. They have this kind of thing. It's called like an infomercial, where they do a make-take infomercial, and this one just immediately went viral. And they said the following day they just couldn't believe it. 1 million hits, like that kind of way, and it's kept going, and then there's so much detail in it. You don't actually see it in the first watch, like you were mentioning about the character that appears later in it. You suddenly realize, oh, he was in it earlier, and the more you watch it, the more Easter egg kind of bits there are to it. You realize, oh, he's in that, and oh, he's in that, and it's just brilliant. It's brilliant. And who was it? Lars von Trier? Is that it?
I don't know.
Listed in there's like 50 characters or something.
It's ridiculous the amount of characters that are in it. Yeah. One of them is Matt Burke, who is a buddy of mine, actually.
Really?
I don't know him. He's not in it. It's just his name is Matt Burke. So he immediately screen grabbed that, and now that's his profile picture.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely worth a look. Yeah. It's
definitely worth looking at.
Yeah. It's quite original. I mean, they thought, okay, well, I think he was in, the guy who wrote it, he was in the shower or something. He said, oh, it'd be funny if we had this like intro to an 80s sitcom, and it didn't stop, and it kept going, and we did it like for 4 minutes, and like 4 minutes at a long time. And then someone mentioned it, one of his buddies, he mentioned it to, and he mentioned it to Adult Swim guy, and he said, Jesus, that's hilarious, right? So they just said, fuck it, we'll do it. But there were like 11 minutes of it. It's kind of the joke that starts out funny, and then just before you start to get bored, it takes a twist, and you go, oh, this is interesting, and then it sort of gets bored, it gets a little bit tired, and then you realize that it's gone on for so long that it becomes hilarious. That kind of way. Yeah. It's one of those, the longer you watch it, the funnier it gets. And it's really, really good. Yeah.
So is this going to be a series, or was this just a one-off?
Well, they may do more, but that was a short film, as Sean said, actually, during the week. Yeah.
It was a short film. They may do other infomercial type things, but it's basically, they're in no way really connected, except that kind of branding.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Adult Swim do have other infomercials. Let's say there's loads of them on YouTube actually. Anyway,
their first one was actually created by H. John Benjamin of Archer fame.
All right, there you go. Yeah,
that was one of the first ones that started it off.
And I think the guy who wrote the theme tune, let me get this right. Was it the guy who wrote the theme tune? Yeah, I think he actually did one for Archer as well. And a few others. Yeah, so, yeah.
That's cool.
Anyway, who saw the Honda video? Speaking of internet movies or short films.
Yes.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? This is the Honda Civic ad, more or less, but it's interactive in a way that I haven't seen before. This is why I sent it on to you guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was clever, but Jesus, it went on for a long, long time.
I think it's 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like 20.
Which is crazily not long at all.
The concept is that they're showing this car, and it's a guy going to a school to pick up his kids, but they say press the R button because there's a Civic Type R. Mm-hmm. When you press the R button, it shows the darker side of the Civic, which is a guy in another model of in the Type R, but what he's doing is picking up his mates from like a bank raid or something.
Yeah.
So, but as you press the R, if you let go, it flicks straight back to the other one.
Yeah. And
they're both filmed in sync and incredibly closely in sync. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing. Mm-hmm. Just, I mean, like it's funny because in one of them, in the Type R, let's say side of the film, they have a guy chasing them and they manage to lose him and he crashes, right? And if you let go of the R, there's the family car Civic is driving along and it passes by a tow truck with the car on it.
Yeah.
You know, so there's loads of cool little touches to it like that. The detail is incredible. But definitely worth a watch as well. Yeah. Yep.
It's weird to think how much the media could possibly change.
Yeah.
Like people have started to do this. Like with there have been live episodes of TV shows like 30 Rock, and those will have a West Coast version and an East Coast version because they have to do it twice for the different time zones, the different time slots.
Oh right, yeah.
Which means they can have the exact same sketches, but what 30 Rock, for example, did was they would have different actors or actresses play like a different part.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And again, it's live, so you could even watch it twice, and it's the same plot, but also it is different every time.
Very good.
Yeah, I just think it's very interesting.
I like it. It's like a new direction in media. It's just completely original. Yeah. So anyway, I saw a movie called The Convict. It's just out on DVD here in Ireland. It's came out earlier this year in Australia, Australian made, about a guy who's sort of done for manslaughter, right. But he's just getting out of the army. His first day back, meets a sweetheart, proposes to her, and while he's sort of going back to collect the blanket, she's at the car, and the dude pulls up, starts giving her, "All right, love," you know, and this kind of stuff, and he's really offensive to her, and her man's like, "Look, leave it out." Guy attacks him, and the guy ends up sort of accidentally being killed. Okay. All right, so then he's done for manslaughter, but the guy's dad is a very rich type dude, and he pays off the warden to make his life hell.
Okay.
So it's about him surviving prison, pretty much, or attempting to.
Can I ask, was that the guy who was giving it a bit of all that, or is that the guy defending the girl?
Sorry, the guy who's defending the girl, who's just after getting engaged, was the guy who was put in prison. Yeah.
Good. Sorry. Okay, very different movies. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Just
true. Yeah, very true. Yeah,
like one of them has a twist.
Yeah. But yeah, it's worth a look. I mean, I have to say the start of it, the dialogue wasn't great, and it was a bit stunted. And I thought, God. But then it just seemed like if they'd filmed it in one day, it was like they filmed the first couple of scenes before they'd coffee, you know, that kind of way. Okay. And then they got into it, and I didn't notice any quality issues from there on. You know, the script was quite good and the acting was very good, and yeah, it was quite enjoyable, and I would go as far to give it a 6. It's not a big budget movie by any means, but yeah, it's worth a look. You'd probably like that, actually.
Possibly.
But if you compare it to Startup, it's not. It's you know, Startup is on a different class altogether. You know, that's the only other prison movie we watched recently, I think. But yeah,
so quite a few Aussie movies this year.
Yeah, there's been a few
horror one and
Babadook.
What was the post-apocalyptic one? With Mr. Face Punch.
Yeah, God.
Guy Pearce.
Yeah. God, I can't remember her name. Yeah, the Rover.
Rover.
Thank you.
It's called Rover.
Thank you. Yeah. See anything else this week, Mike?
I did. I finally got to the season finale for Leftovers.
Oh yeah, tell us.
Yeah.
Season finale of Leftovers. I want to hear about this.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. But I guess the show wasn't for everyone either.
True.
So you have basically the climax in the little town of the conflict between the guilty remnant and, I suppose, for want of a better word, normal people. But they decide not to bother with linear storytelling. So there's dream sequences, there's random events that bring together story arcs just because.
Have they done this during the season, or is this just for the finale?
Occasionally, yeah.
Right.
They do occasionally mess things up during the course of the season.
Okay, so it wasn't totally unexpected or anything.
No, it's in a vein. Yeah. So.
Can I just say that you're using really loaded vocabulary to talk about this? You said they didn't bother with linear storytelling, as if that's just something they forgot about and it wasn't an active decision. And that you said throughout the season they messed stuff up a little bit, so it's not like completely out of character. I'm sure that they're doing this on purpose, and you didn't like it.
No, you see, Sean, after all these years, you still don't get me. I'm talking about a show that I like. I do appreciate the fact that they did it this way. But I'm mindful of the fact that somebody like Mark would probably just have a little conniption for himself. Say, this doesn't make any sense.
I already hate it, Michael.
See, I think I stand vindicated there. So anyway,
I like you a little bit less because you liked it.
So anyway, they do a reasonable job of wrapping up what needed to be wrapped up, insofar as it could be, and they've certainly left it wide open for series 2.
Oh, is there a hook?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you kind of think, okay, what's going to happen now?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's very much so not a.
So you're kind of left hanging rather than hooking.
I wouldn't even say hanging. Like, it is satisfying, the ending.
Yeah.
But there's so much more they can dig into it.
Okay.
So it's not like a kind of a Godfather ending, machine gunning a whole wedding party or something.
Right, okay, yeah.
I consider myself a satisfied consumer.
Very good. Very good.
Did you guys hear the news?
I've heard several pieces of news today.
Well, breaking as we speak, something happened on the internet that 6 days later led to 2 large multinational companies deciding to cut all ties with an entertainment professional. Would you like to hear the story?
Yeah, I heard the story. Tell us more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Bill Cosby tried to engage with social media. Sometimes older people engaging with social media doesn't work out very well. Later on, when we talk about George Takei, we'll see someone who's amazing at connecting with people using social media. Bill Cosby, however, had a misstep when he said, here are some pictures of me. Why don't you guys meme them for me? Like a little Twitter, ad campaign. So what people decided to do was take these things and remind everyone that Bill Cosby has been accused of rape many, many times.
I think he's got 13 accusers at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, that have come forward and are willing to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
One of the photos is on the top. I've been accused of rape. Big smiling picture of Cosby pointing to someone by 13 different women.
That shit. Oh, yeah. They went to town on him.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
And bear in mind, they're sending him all of these with @Cosby. For example, there's one of him wearing a cap going, it's not rape if you're famous.
Oh, jeez.
There's another one of him listening to headphones in a clearly cheesy comedic scene, and it says, now I can't hear you, say no.
Oh, God.
So, we might think that the
brutal.
internet and social media can't affect the real world sometimes, but this would be a silly position to hold, at least in the entertainment industry. Because 6 days later, after a lot of information came out and a lot of furor was created, and rightly so, Netflix decided they were not going to air his comedy special, and NBC, who were developing a TV show based around him, have just said that, with no other comment, that the show is no longer in development.
Wow.
Yeah.
Burned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought it was pretty interesting, because sometimes people can be held accountable by the internet.
That's probably more effective than a court case, isn't it?
What it sounds like, apparently, is it was kind of like Rohypnol-ish.
Mhm.
Yeah, sort of waking up going,
Mhm.
where's my clothes?
Right.
You know, yeah.
13 times.
Some of the memes
Allegedly.
refer to that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but did he not supply the photos as well on his website? Wasn't that it? The memes?
Yeah, he was
That
the
was
one
the
who went,
thing.
"Hey, would you guys use these photos and
Yeah,
make them
that was
into
it.
funny memes?" And people are like, "Yeah, we will. You rapist."
It's just nuts.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, I've got some movie news for you that I think that you'll like, and I wish Dara was here. We could tell him as well.
Hit me, Sean.
There's a Rocky spin-off movie.
Yay!
Really?
It's going to start filming in January, and it's based around Apollo Creed.
Oh, I was just going to say, please tell me it's about Apollo Creed.
It's going to be
Brilliant.
cool. They've already cast him, Michael B. Jordan, who we saw in Chronicle, and who will be playing Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four film, will be playing Apollo Creed. Yeah?
I'm excited.
Mhm.
That sounds like it's worth doing, actually.
So is this
Yeah.
Apollo before or after Rocky?
His road to the
Well,
title,
given the
which
age
is
of the
an untold
actor.
story.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What it looks like is Ryan Coogler is directing. But apparently Sylvester Stallone is returning as Rocky Balboa in some capacity.
Really? Wow. It's like time
being
machine.
boxers Andre Ward and Tony Bellew are in negotiations to get into the ring.
So there's a
let
time
me go
machine
on.
involved, is there?
Well, the story from what we know so far actually centers on Apollo Creed's grandson Adonis. Adonis Creed, who Jordan will be playing, has tried to keep him away from the ring, but his natural talents as a pugilist draw him there anyway. And Stallone will be acting as the Burgess Meredith, as the trainer. What do we think about that?
Oh, it's going to be great. There
Who's playing Burgess Meredith?
Well, no one will be playing him, but it's just that Rocky will be acting as the Mickey, it seems like.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Action the Mick.
Ooh.
Very good. Right. Okay, moving on. Okay, let's start with the first of our movies. Our only movie this week, actually. To Be Takei. Who wants to tell us about this, Mark?
Takei.
Takei.
It's Takei, not
Takei, Takei, yeah. He makes a point of that, doesn't it? It's Takei.
He does.
Yeah.
Takei.
George Takei. Okay.
George Takei, who many people would still know as Sulu from Star Trek, is a bit of a worldwide phenomenon in many ways. And this is a documentary about him, I guess, and his husband. He seems to, Brad plays a very decent part in it as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it.
Yeah. It was quite an interesting story, I thought. Especially his background in the internment camps, for Japanese, during World War II after Pearl Harbor. There's a lot of parallels to be made there with concentration camps or internment camps, and what was happening in Europe.
Careful now.
Yeah, well, you know.
Well, there are.
Yeah, there are. You know, I think it was just crazy. But, I mean, there were second and third generations nearly, you know. So they were Americans. Japanese Americans, sure, but they're still Americans. So it was just nuts. But, even despite that fact, it doesn't matter what they are, but just to be interred like that. But anyway, so obviously it deeply, deeply affected him. And it sort of inspired him to, in his life and his career and so on. But what I loved about this is that he's such a nice guy. He's such a likable guy. And I love he's got a great voice for radio if he was to do it. You know, it's just that baritone type, voice and very well spoken, which is his accent. I couldn't nail it down. It doesn't sound like an LA accent, actually. Yeah. So what you think?
I probably didn't enjoy it as much as you did, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because I didn't know that much about Sulu except for his Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't, for example, know he was in Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, yeah.
and I didn't know that he had done so many embarrassing, shall we say, Ching Chong Chinaman 1960s American
Stereotypal
TV kind of things, you know. So I thought it was interesting, his squeamishness when recalling having to do that kind of work, you know. It's just, I'm so sad now, you know. But I kept on thinking while watching it, that it didn't really compare to something like Senna or Hero Dreams of Sushi in terms of documentary interest.
Right.
You know, I'm not saying it wasn't interesting, it just didn't grab me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Steve, am I allowed to talk about this? I've only seen about just over half an hour.
Sure. Tell us about the half an hour you've seen.
It was my idea that we watch this. I'm a big fan of George Takei since his days on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which is a British reality TV show that he won. I thought that this would be really interesting because I know that he is a very loud voice in a variety of different concerns between human rights, gay marriage, just a lot of things. He's a lot to say. And in the half hour that I saw, I think Mike has probably nailed it, that one of my comments when we watched Senna was that they used existing footage expertly to tell a story with an obvious narrative. And they're kind of doing the opposite in this movie. They're, I know it's a documentary, right? Fair enough. But they're kind of, it's almost like they're going to George, like, tell us this story and tell us that story. And then they intersperse real footage of things.
Yeah, it's kind of semi-reality TV, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it didn't have that narrative, that implicit narrative makes sense over it. But I'm still I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about the rest of it, but I'm still kind of interested enough in him as a person that I want to watch the rest of it. So you can tell me if you think that's a bad idea.
Well, I think there was one bit that kind of summed that up when, was it Brad?
Yeah.
His partner was relating a story, and he just said, I know it's not that interesting, but that's how it happened, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of the story of the evening for me.
Sean?
What I think might be what Mark was noticing, and it's something that came out as I was watching the movie in my head as well, is they're not just trying to tell one story, they're trying to tell multiple stories to make up this one man. Because it's the story of, an Asian American actor who was in an internment camp, trying to make a Broadway quality musical about that experience.
Yeah.
In one sense, that's what you could say it's about.
Yeah.
It's also about a gay actor, having to figure out when to come out, how to do that, and how to operate as a gay person and fight for gay rights.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a love story. Just about, here is a look at, this love story between these two people. We even see them scatter the ashes of, Brad's mother in the movie. And it's kind of that. And also it's just, this is about a year and a half. Like, this is about a year and a half of what they do. Look at George Takei's life. So they're trying to get at a lot of things. And to be honest, particularly in the first section, when they show his big speech, that he makes about the internment camps, that was something that they set up a lot, where they show you him being welcomed to a large amount of dinners. You know what I mean? Like, they show, okay, this is the speech, we're about to hear it. And then I felt that dragged in part. Perhaps because it was tonally inconsistent with what had come before, which was them using star wipes to talk about Star Trek and, that Bill Shatner, so in part, as a movie, I think that it did fall down a little bit on that, but that doesn't mean that it didn't communicate to us his life more efficiently, more verisimilitudinously than if they had just shown one of the stories and driven towards that one. You know what I mean? Because they very much could have just kept it wrapped around the musical. They could have done that. So I don't know. I think what they were trying to do was to show what it's like to be Takei. That's what the movie wanted to do. And not necessarily to go, this is the one story about this man, which I thought was very interesting. And I go back and forth about whether or not them achieving the first forgives them for the latter. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they really did cover a lot of stuff. Like, he ran for office, which is another thing. Like you said already, he was, not only gay rights, human rights, and gay marriage. He was key in that as well. And actually, that's something I'd forgotten about Schwarzenegger not signing or vetoing it at the time in California, which was crazy. But I just thought there was a lot of interesting information and interesting stories. I agree, it wasn't quite as grabbing as Senna, for example. But I think it's a different story. Senna is high octane. It's exciting. It's racing. It's crashing. It also has the politics and the shouting and so on. But, and like Mark said, the original footage. Now, we did see original footage in this, but I think it's a different story, and it's a more low-key story, but I don't think it's any less interesting because they covered so much, and it's amazing how much he covered in his life, you know. Now, a lot of the stuff isn't as new as Hero Dreams of Sushi either. That was fascinating because, like, I knew nothing about sushi, you know, and the dedication the guys go into and so on. But I won't say I learned as much in this by any means, but I did learn some. You know, maybe it was just facts rather than timelines rather than facts. That's it.
Well, I mean, just to put it in perspective, I absolutely hate Formula One.
Yeah.
But I was gripped by Senna.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Star Trek.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I was kind of lost by this.
Yeah.
It's not really that much about Star Trek, right?
Exactly.
Like, because I was wondering how much they'd go into it. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's kind of, in part, this movie is just trying to impart some moral messages the same way George Takei would. Like, I'm positive that they had a lot of control over this movie in to the degree of what it was about. Or the director and editors had similar viewpoints. You know what I mean? They wanted to get across certain messages, like it's glossed over the internment camp era in America. That is glossed over completely. And also, people hate gay people still a lot, and they don't get to get married in a lot of places. Like, these are things they very actively and forcefully tried to put out there.
Oh,
what I
yeah,
thought
that was
very
a classic bit. Actually, I'd forgotten the Jimmy Kimmel bit, the ad that he did. What was the basketball player? Tim something? Who was saying that he was really homophobic and hated gay people and blah, blah, blah. And so then
some hair-lipped fuck.
And then he did a parody on the whole thing. It was just brilliantly done, and I thought it was hilarious. Really hilarious. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the most interesting things to me was to look at how their relationship operated. Because it's kind of weird in an interesting way. So I actually heard gossip about Brad, about the husband, from someone in a bar sitting next to Lando Calrissian, back in St. Louis, about a year ago.
Yeah.
Where, so I'm sitting next to the guy who runs Billy D. Williams's Facebook and Twitter, talking about George Takei's Facebook and Twitter and how everybody loves that shit.
Yeah.
And he was saying, I won't give the guy's name, but he's a personal assistant to Billy D. Williams. And he's like, that's all his husband. His husband does all of that shit. It's his husband, and it's like George's cousin or something. That's what it is. He just is, and he's such a bitch. He is such a bitch. Apparently, and I was watching this movie, kind of going, do you know what? I really wouldn't like this guy Brad if I met him. Or if I was in line waiting to meet George Takei, I'd really be annoyed by this guy, Brad. Like, I knew that. And what was very interesting was that I still felt for him in certain places and still liked him in other places. While on the surface, he just seems kind of like an anal retentive dick bag. Like, honest to God. But it was crazy the way that the degree to which that was so obvious. And then George Takei, Mark, I would say watch the rest of this movie, at least up as far as to when Will Wheaton shows up. Cause Will Wheaton is just standing there at one of the conventions, and George comes in and he goes, George Takei walks over to him. He goes, Will. He doesn't say another word to him, but he puts his hand on Will Wheaton's belly and goes, you've gained weight. What, you've gained weight. What are you? Will Wheaton has no fucking idea what to say. He has no fucking clue. Because he's angry. Like, he's a bit pissed off that this just happened in front of his buddies and like cameras. So he literally just goes, oh, he doesn't know because this is an older man. He's like, what am I going to say to George Takei? Fuck you, George. What are you talking about? So he just kind of goes, what, like you're an athlete under there?
Yeah.
And George Takei just looks and just kind of nods and like opens his arms and goes, you have to maintain. You have to maintain.
But I love
like,
that.
What a fucky thing. It was like, wow, George Takei, you're a nice guy, but this is the thing where you're really humanly imperfect.
Yeah, I love that Brad berated him for it afterwards as well, you know. Yeah, you could really see that.
He was like, that wasn't the right thing to say.
Yeah, you could really see the relationship, the husband thing going on there, you know, so. Yeah.
And when I'm trying to think of it, and I'm sure any actual like proper documentarian could tell me, when was the last documentary that was exclusively the two characters, because there aren't any other real characters besides the people we hear about, the two characters, two gay men in a relationship?
I don't.
Brokeback Mountain.
Talking about documentary, like it's another thing. It's a multi-ethnic gay relationship, and it shows the struggles that go into that. Like that was something that we haven't seen that often in something that will be watched as much as this, because George Takei, we know how many million of people like him on Facebook. If that translates at all, that's people watching the movie.
What was the name of the other guy they were interviewing? Oh God, I can't remember his name. The poor guy. He was also on Star Trek.
William Shatner.
No, not William
Leonard Nimoy.
Walter Koenig.
Yes.
It was Walter Koenig.
Walter Koenig. And Walter Koenig, when he's been interviewed, he's talking about, geez, George, you've done so much with your life. And I really felt sorry for him, because he's like saying, like, I did nothing after Star Trek, you know.
Right.
And look what you've done. You've done so much. You've done this, but our careers are over. He said after Star Trek, and he said, no, maybe for you, you know. and he's just done, that's another thing that really highlighted me. I'm not saying that he sat at home doing nothing, but that's what it seemed like, you know, when you do the comparison, like, yeah, it's just amazing. I really felt sorry for him. And he looked a lot older for some reason as well. Yeah.
Well, he is 78, Walter Koenig.
Is he? All right.
Well, so's George Takei.
Yeah,
George Takei is old as fuck.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. It really is. Also, there's another fucking barrier breaker. When was the last time we saw a movie about a 77-year-old gay man? It was probably The Beginners, actually, now that I think about it. But still, you know, it's just interesting. This doesn't happen. He's very unique.
This is true. So, do we want to mark this?
Oh, we'll have to, won't we?
Yeah. Mike, we'll start with you.
Yep, not a bad show. Not my cup of tea. I'll give it a 5.
John.
Morally great. George Takei is amazing. I'd give him like 9 out of 10. But the movie, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to go to 6 as well. Yeah. It's not a bad show. It's very entertaining. But you know, when we have Senna on the scale, you know, it's a very strong 6 for me. Yeah.
What I would say is, I'm the same. What I would say is, if you have any bit more than a passing interest in George Takei, definitely watch this movie.
Yeah.
And if you happen to think that you hate gay people, watch the movie, or I don't know, buy the DVD and eat the disc.
Very good. Okay. Next up, first of our TV, which is Survivor's Remorse, Mike.
This is the story of a young fella who plays sports rather well, gets a huge contract to play for a major sports team in Atlanta, and his cousin comes along to keep him on the straight and narrow. However, he comes from quite a rough background, and it looks like it's going to be easier said than done to remove himself from his past.
Very good. Who wants to start with this? Mark, we haven't heard much from you.
Well, I was just letting you esteemed gentlemen talk. So Survivor's Remorse is a standard enough dramedy, if that's the genre for drama comedy. The writing isn't bad, but there's no conviction in the performance. And any time he tried to convince me of anything, he lost me. And that was my problem right the way through. So the whole conceit of this show is that this guy is, right, he's talented, right? Which means he worked really, really hard at playing sports. And this talent has converted into riches. And he feels bad because, and this is my problem, he feels bad because people who didn't work as hard at anything, that didn't happen to them. Which to me and the Merovingian would just be cause and effect. But that's neither here nor there. He obviously believes that there's more luck involved in that kind of thing, and that he feels bad because that same good luck didn't befall his friends, many of whom, despite living in the ghetto, are upstanding gentlemen, many of whom are not. And again, anytime he started trying to convince me about this remorse, I didn't feel it. I never felt it. His agent, who also came from the ghetto with him, was far more convincing. And when he was talking, I was interested again, because he was trying to come across like, man, I'm doing this for you, but it's also kind of for me.
Yeah.
And anytime he talked, I went, you know what? That guy's right. He knows what's what.
Yeah.
So that's a real problem. When one of the main characters is not convincing in a show, I think you're in trouble right from the get-go. So that's my 2 cents.
Actually, I think the lead kind of did well. It was a Cab Calloway is his name in the show. Because I think he was meant to be sort of a brainless, lightweight idiot. With,
annoying character.
With way too much money and way too much luck and good looks and girls and everything's falling right for him. And I think he did carry it off quite well in being that kind of a character. And then of course you have the rational man, his cousin looking after him, who's still got his feet on the ground. So I didn't see that as a weakness in the lead.
That's okay, Mike. We can disagree.
That's all right.
It's happened before.
I think I'm with Mark on this. Sorry, Mike.
How did I know that?
No, it just, I think he's on the button there with, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to tune out when he was talking, but then retune in when his agent started talking. Yeah.
Right.
Steve is often on the side of the person who is right. I think you'll find Mike.
The interesting is that
Sean.
Well, you guys are. It's interesting. You might even be reading inexperience versus experience in the way that you're looking at those two guys, because as everyone knows, everyone remembers Ron Rico Lee, who plays the agent from Sister back in 1997. He's been doing this shit since way before then, even. Whereas the young gentleman Jesse Usher playing, who we would presume to be the lead, though IMDb disagrees. He is like his fourth thing. Like his IMDb thing does not go back very far, which I found it interesting. It's a big break for him. This is the TV show for him. I thought that he was fine. I didn't think he was great. I mean, I didn't hate him. I thought the character was written to be what was going on. Also, if we're going to liken the show to anything, I'd almost liken it to Entourage, but where people came from actual adversity. And this to me seems like he's doing about as good of a job as Adrian Grenier needed to in the first 3 seasons of Entourage.
I see. I haven't seen the first 3 seasons.
We're going to be talking about Entourage a bit later too. No, it's fair enough. Like I don't dispute anything you said there, Sean. If the guy is less experienced, I think we can still expect that he's good enough to be on TV though. Otherwise, they should have given the job to somebody else and let him fill out his portfolio with other things, But that's fair enough. Maybe we should cut him a bit more slack. Maybe he'll grow into it as well. I find, and I've talked about in this podcast a lot, that particularly in comedies, finding the right resonance with the character takes a bit of time. Because particularly in comic writing, you're saying a lot of stuff that maybe you wouldn't. But the problem with this is dramatic as well. They are trying to hit actual, the whole remorse thing. They're trying to talk about real human emotion in this as well. And usually you don't get the same kind of lead time. But luckily, the ratings were poor for this show.
I'm not surprised. I was just going to say this, that wasn't my only problem with this. The actual story that we're given in the second half of this first episode, it was just weak and uninteresting. And, the story is that some stuff is uncovered from his past, but it's like when he was 7 or something that this thing happened. So, I mean, he was a 7-year-old. You're not going to hold it against a professional, sports player person, especially.
Yes,
it doesn't
you do.
matter.
Well-
It doesn't matter what the content is. He was 7, for God's sake.
What age was Bill Cosby?
It was his career. his career was beginning. I think that was a very legitimate threat. He very easily could
I don't
have
think it was as big a threat as
never signed another deal. No sponsorship
Yeah.
deals, so that's millions in endorsements gone out the window. Hot new thing doesn't get to sign on to Nike. What happens? Does he go to Adidas? No, he doesn't go to fucking Adidas. Because guess what? Asian people buy Adidas too.
Okay. So say it was, right? Say it was how you say it there, right?
Say it happened.
You say it happened. Say it was a big deal.
Say that it's the way that it is in the real world. I agree.
Right.
Okay.
So if it was in the real world, surely you would have been asking for a lot more money than he was asking for. If it was that big a deal.
Well, if we're going to go into it, 1, yes. 2, they didn't seem like the smartest yokes. 3, he wasn't actually asking for money, it turns out.
So
he needed money. Yeah.
Let's move on to talking about the guy who wrote and created this show. His name is Michael O'Malley, who you guys may remember most notably from My Name is Earl, where he played the policeman, and also from Glee, where he played Kurt Hummel's dad. I don't know if you guys know this, but Kurt Hummel's dad in Glee is super, super white. And I thought it was interesting that this guy was choosing to write 6 episodes for Starz based around essentially the black experience in America. And I thought that he was doing an all right job for a lot of it. And then I think that the 6 episode commitment and like no more, it looks like that's what they want their season to be. And also the fact that it was a pilot hurt him, detracted from him a lot. One of the main characters, is the young basketball star's sister, who, with a few very small lines, endeared herself to me immediately as a super up for it, like lesbian, I'll beat the shit out of you if you talk bad about my family person. Yeah. And then they dropped in her character scene because it's the only place they had room for it. And it just came off as, it almost felt like I don't know. It was just like, here's some backstory that you might need to know, and this will inform my character, in part, and look at me acting. This, you should be, and I was just like, this is too blunt and on the nose, and I worry that this will lead into various other scenes like this, where Mike O'Malley, not to say that he's not trying to do a good thing, but where he unloads his white guilt all over a screenplay and then gets people to go say those words on television.
It was also way too long, that scene.
I think it was bad.
Yeah.
I think it was badly written.
Anything else saying this, Mike?
Um,
Apart from apologies for making us watch it.
I don't know what your problem is.
Will you watch more of it, Mike?
Compared to the rest of the crap that you make.
Will you watch more of it, Mike?
I may actually watch another
you
episode.
will in spite. Yeah.
Yeah, just to fucking show you.
This is going to be Mike's Z Nation.
It is.
Yeah.
So just to go back to the ratings, speaking of Mike trying to watch more of it, he may not be able. 203,000 people watched this when it premiered. In context, that is 71% less than what Outlander got in the same slot.
Wow.
Okay,
So-
so it may
Ouch.
not make 6 episodes then.
Yeah.
Well, it might make the 6. I don't know. There's lots of things that go into that decision making process with the networks, but it's not good. The ratings are poor, and you kind of want you need a big premiere, and then you're looking at the fall off to see whether this is going to be a runner or not. But to start weak, it's not a good sign.
It kind of, I think that the problem with it as well is, I think that they will get the 6 episodes because all the IMDb information is up there. I think they've been shot, and they probably will be aired if they've shot them, unless if the ratings drop, then maybe they'll just go, let's never speak of this again.
Yeah.
But I feel like they were trying, it was almost like the thing Mike hates, where it mixes genres, which is strange, because I thought at the start it's like, this is the glitz and the glam, watch this guy deal with these rich people problems and mess them up because he doesn't really know how to do it. Again, much like Entourage, and then we go to the last half of the episode and it's like, oh, their lives are in danger. This is are they trying to show us the hood? Is that what, air quotes, is that what they're trying to do here? Is this an intentional like mixing? Is it they want to show us the two worlds this guy is a part of now and the pull between those? Or was it just kind of a vague, this is almost making a point, and even when it does make a point, it's way too on the nose? I kind of felt like it was a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Scattered, loose. Like it wasn't pinned down. It wasn't definitive or subtle, which is a problem.
So will you watch more of this, Sean?
I'm not going to watch any more of this. The fact that it's 6 episodes is the only thing that's in favor of it right now for me.
Yeah. Mark?
No, it's filler for me, Steve.
Mike?
I mean, I thought this was going to be a crappy Fresh Prince of Bel-Air knockoff, and every now and then they throw in something I didn't expect.
Who do you think you are, Carlton? That was such a classic quote in there. Yeah,
that was really funny.
That was very funny, actually. Yeah,
you know, it's not
funniest thing about it. Actually.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of darkness. It's not the light comedy that I had expected. So that made me more positive about it. So I'm gonna give it a thriller.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Well, report back to us,
so
Mike.
wrong.
I'm willing to be persuaded.
It's filler for me. Yeah. I think they're going to have to persuade another 500,000 people,
or more.
Yeah. Okay. So next one is second row TV, which is The Comeback. Sean.
The Comeback centers around Valerie Cherish, played by Lisa Kudrow, a failing and or failed actress who is trying to use reality television to get back into the biz. This is the second season of the show. The first season aired in 2005 and was not picked up or renewed. It was until now. It was cancelled because of low ratings, and it became a cult hit. In fact, it was a predictor for a lot of types of TV shows that came out after it, and people liked it so much that HBO went, you know what? Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Here you go. Here's a season 2, Lisa Kudrow. Are you having a laugh? Can we be friends?
What came out that was like it afterwards?
Well, a lot of things, like any show that has,
Let's put you on the spot.
like episodes, for example, starring Matt LeBlanc.
Oh, The Office was finished by the time this came out.
Extras. Like, I don't know what the timeline is for Extras. Well. Entourage, like, all I'm saying is it predicted a wave of storytelling where people, like, use their real names, and that's a part of the show.
Yeah.
Or they have careers similar to what actually is happening in their real lives right now.
Yeah, so this... I didn't like this. I'll come straight out with it, right? I'll give you a synopsis and why, right? This, they're playing on the type of awkward comedy that Ricky Gervais sort of came out with The Office. Like you said The Office straight off there, Mark. It's very obvious that's the kind of comedy they're going for. So I wasn't sure if it was Phoebe or Ricky Gervais in this anyway, but who gets into an awkward situation by letting a tape of herself play that she just can't shut off, which is kind of awkward because she's trying to project herself as being a good, experienced professional person. But then she has problems with recording a piece in the studio because it gets awkward when someone keeps interrupting her with hilarious stuff like phone calls. But and this is before she has an awkward situation at her front door about a potential scandal, which could be awkward. Then another thing that really annoyed me was her character, where she'd say something, she'd smile and nod as if to go, yeah, smile along with me. It was happening constantly, and it really got irritating. And it was a very, very long 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it was. I really, really didn't like this, and I don't think they're going to make too many more of it. And I can't understand why they want a season 2. Mark?
Steve, me and you were getting on so well about survivor's remorse, and now look what's happened.
Explain yourself then.
Well,
yeah, hit me.
First of all, in a startling break with tradition for me in this podcast, I watched more than I needed to of this. I went back and watched season 1, episode 1.
Oh, wow, really? Yeah.
To try and figure out what the deal was, right? And about 24, 25 minutes into that episode, I went, wait a minute. Lisa Kudrow can act a bit. Not only can she act a bit, but she was brilliant in that. I have no idea why this was cancelled. Sean has covered it pretty well. It was ahead of its time. I Googled after the fact then to see why the show got cancelled, and the ratings were low, even though it was coming up right beside Entourage, which at the time was supremely popular. The the audience just wasn't ready for this kind of show, which Sean has talked about that. There's no need to go over it. But Lisa Kudrow is really, really strong in this. And so she's got a couple of different things going on, right? There's the character who is on reality TV camera and aware of it. And that's when she does the smile that drives you mental, right? Oh. Because it's her game face. I'm an actress, like me. Here's my like me smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she's also a person who's being filmed by reality TV cameras that we're getting to watch through the keyhole, as it were. And some of that stuff is so powerful. Like the second season, I think probably in content more so, but I don't think Kudrow is as strong as she was in that pilot. But it's like, and I wondered a lot if the reason why Kudrow is so good at this, like she got 2 or 3 Emmy nominations for that. But one of those was for Best Actress in a Comedy. If she is that good an actress, or this kind of stuff happens all the time, and it's not that hard as an actress who's in the business for a while to show those emotions because you've felt them. You've had the bitter disappointments. You've had to pretend to your friends and family that, no, I'm totally on top of the world. So I'm living the dream. Look at me. I'm in LA. I'm an actress. When in reality, you have no idea where your next paycheck is coming from or if there's ever going to be one. And that's where she is in season 1. In season 2, it doesn't seem to be. I didn't watch all 22 episodes of season 1 now, just the first one. I'm not crazy. But like, there's a scene in season 1, episode 1, where Kudrow is looking into the mirror, supposed to be doing her diary. And in that particular scene, the 2 personas coalesce, and she knows the people hear what she's saying, but she's so upset by the day that her real persona's emotions are leaking out through the performance that she's trying to do, where she's saying, look, everything is fine. But you see in her eyes that she knows it's not fine. And that's really top-notch acting, and I think Kudrow is brilliant. Anyway, the episode we're supposed to review this week, that was going on as well. It's not quite as good, right? But, Kudrow basically is now been passed by all the people she thought were inconsequential in season 1. They're now stars and making a living. And she's more or less in the same place that she was in 2005. Pretending she's not, though. She's pretending to be this seasoned actress. And again, I think Kudrow does this very well. And she's engineering relationship problems for her that is going to be explored, I'm sure, in the rest of season 2 with her husband and all the rest. But I think that they're looking at what it's really like to be an actor in the modern day, very frankly and very uncomfortably at times. And I found it really riveting viewing.
Anyone else see this?
Yep.
Mike?
Ooh. What's that thing Mark always says? I don't know what program you were watching with.
But who are you saying it to, Mike? Steve or me?
I'm saying it to you. I'm with Steve all the way on this one.
Oh, you're usually right. What happened to you, man?
Sorry. I just thought this was hideously bad. As you call it, the game face. It started feeling like she was just beating me around the head with it. I didn't really feel for the character. I had kind of thought that it was going to be a comedy, and I sat there waiting for even just a hint of a giggle. And I waited, and I waited. Even the socially awkward stuff were more like in The Office. You have cringe that's funny, but this was just cringe. Maybe I just don't appreciate that kind of humor, but it didn't do anything for me.
That's what I can't understand. It's getting good reviews. Well, for the most part, I think Metacritic it's in the 70s,
Oh, really?
Yeah. And user reviews are 8 point something. What are we missing? Sean, tell us, what are we missing?
You're probably wondering on which camp I'm going to come down on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the real question, right? We've set it up, we've teed it up. And to be honest, Steve, listen, I completely agree with Mark. Because here's the thing. Mike, you just described not laughing, okay? Which is interesting because I did laugh at the funny, cringy moments. There was a literal moment where I lolled, and that doesn't usually happen. Like, it depends on the show, but it doesn't usually happen. In this, there's a moment where there's a really touching scene where an incident that happened between cameras that were shown earlier on, essentially between seasons, is she tried to be a real housewife. And she wouldn't do it because she thought people were essentially making fun of her. You know, like, no, we're going to paint you to be the bad guy, and that means that you are unlikable, because that is what her need seems to be. I am successful, and you should, like, please like me. I am worth liking. Something that we will see forever. It's because Hollywood turns in upon itself, whether it's BoJack Horseman or this. And she gets to meet the guy who's in charge of, like, saying yes to this show, or no, you're no longer on the show, or whatever, a guy that she worked with. And she has a really intense line where she just goes, I didn't understand before that I was a character, and not, and that I wasn't playing myself. Like, she gets it, so maybe she can succeed now. And then when she's out, she's kicking herself because the guy punched her at one point to stop her from getting in to talk to this guy. And she was like, I should have flipped the fucking table. First of all, when the guy punched her, that was fucking hilarious. And second of all, when she goes, I need to, like, go, like, you know, get angry at somebody, I need to make a mess. And then we cut to elevator open. It's time for things to get messy. She walks away. I completely lolled. I completely went, I knew she was going to fucking do this. And I knew she shouldn't. This is amazing. And stuff like that happen all the time. Like, even when she's not sure if she knows a guy's name, and she does that thing that we all do where you think you know it, and you need to say their name. So it's like grip it and rip it time. Ivan? And he says yes, and she goes, yes. Like, inwardly in her eyes, you can see her go, yes, nailed it. Next thing. I did notice that they had one overly long scene where she did the smile too much, which is also the thing that you referenced, Steve, in your fun synopsis. That is an overly long scene. I did not find that problem anywhere later on. Also, bear in mind, you can review any show in the world by going, oh, The Walking Dead. So they go to this place, and guess what? They need food, right? And then they go and they run out of food, right? So they don't have any food, right? Do you know what I mean? So there's no food, you know what I mean? And if you say it like that, people will think it's bad. Yes, awkwardness and cringiness recur in this show. So yes, if you don't like that, then you probably shouldn't watch this. However, I thought it was really funny, and I thought it was moving.
That's kind of funny, considering you're a past master of using vocal tone to critically destroy a particular show you're not very fond of.
That's true. I go for laughs sometimes, Mike, and sometimes I flip the switch and I get fucking serious. Now you can figure out which one that one was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just struggle to understand why I even talk to these people. You know, it's just...
but seriously, yeah. I just couldn't see the humor in it, and
thank you. It wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't. No, you know, I don't know. It's that kind of reoccurring character. It just seems too like Phoebe as well. I know it's the same person, but it's just the character is still.
She's still doing the Phoebe thing.
Yeah.
20 years later,
and it's still annoying. It's still really
well,
annoying.
It was pretty funny in 1995.
Yeah.
So you didn't laugh at the punch at all, Mike?
No.
When the waiter punched, you didn't think that was funny?
No.
That makes no sense to me. Like, it makes no sense that that's not funny. That a waiter tries to stop you, and instead of an open hand, they for some reason have a fist out. That's hilarious. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, if he had knocked a couple of teeth out or something, maybe.
No, I was on the guy's side. I was like, this annoying bitch is coming in with a camera crew, and is just going to walk in, and I've already told her 3 times nicely, 4 times nicely. Sorry, you can't. It's my job to make sure you can't. And she goes storming in anyway, and he went to put out a hand, and yes, he did have a closed fist. That was his mistake.
Which is hilarious.
Right, yeah.
It's just so hilarious when someone does something like that. It's completely understandable. But
and then
that was shit.
He immediately knew, oh shit, I've done something bad. And he's like, look, I'm really, really sorry. But you can see
You're describing the humor really well.
But I was just saying, is that not something that could happen, like naturally, not funny?
I agree.
You know?
It's like life, and it adds to the humor.
I didn't see the humor in it. Maybe, you know, that's it. It's horse for courses. It's not my kind of humor. It's not my kind of show. So, filler for me.
Mm-hmm. Back up the truck, load it up.
Filler
all the way.
Yeah. For me, it's very much a thriller. I think it's really, really good and thoughtful and insightful and funny.
Marcus?
I think you're all doing Lisa, well, apart from Sean, who seems to have his head well screwed on tonight. You're all doing Lisa Kudrow a disservice. Did I mention she was nominated for an Emmy for Best Actress in a Comedy for her performance?
Several Emmys even, wasn't it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but no, if her smile annoys you, then that's just fine.
Yeah. But obviously
it's thriller for me.
Someone funny
Thriller
won
for
it,
me.
though.
Every so often you find a show that's ahead of its time. And
Wow.
like we're used to things being ahead of Mike's time, given that his was the 60s. But Steve, you used to be so contemporary, man.
Sorry, that's not an argument. The Office was ahead of this, which is the same type of humor.
But also,
I just wanted to call Mike old.
I know.
but also one of the reasons people say it was ahead of its time because it predicted this fascination with celebrity and us going, let's just make shows about celebrities just sitting down. That was also one of the jokes from season 2, episode 1 of The Comeback. Very spot on
Actually,
humor.
you know what? This is something else I wanted to mention this week. I forgot to say it earlier on. I actually watched an episode of Honey Boo Boo. Because,
did you?
Yeah, I did. I'd never seen it. And
Honey Boo Boo Cha.
Yeah, and someone said it to me, or I heard it on something during the week. Might have been Joe Rogan podcast or something. He was talking about, I don't know, the dregs of reality TV show, and we're seeing the tail end of it now. In his opinion, so I said, right, I have to see this, and I actually watched the best of, all right, and
Oh God.
yeah, really. Now, I didn't realize that she was like 7 or something.
Yep.
That's nuts.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
No, now I have to give credit where credit is due. She's obviously a very smart kid. Right? She's really got the gift of the gab. She comes out with some hilarious stuff now and again. Just some phrases or just off the cuff stuff, which is hilarious. Now, it's more I couldn't watch a reality TV show about her, but I think condensed, it's watchable. But good God, that lifestyle. Then I saw the beauty pageant stuff. I didn't realize that she was into that too. That's kind of shocking, that kind of stuff.
Did it include the scene at the pool with her toes?
No.
There was one bit that I nearly actually threw up while watching it. They're at
Are you really going to tell us?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
It's Honey Boo Boo. I have to tell you.
Okay, go on.
They're admiring each other's toes.
Yeah.
And the camera pans onto her toes.
Yeah.
And you can see little tiny black insects crawling out from underneath her toenail.
What?
Yeah.
What's that about?
It hadn't been washed in about 6
I give
years.
over, really?
Yeah. It's vile.
Okay. Anyway, my curiosity is satisfied. I would be giving it filler, all right, but it's not as it's not as bad as I thought it was. Now, granted, obviously,
It's probably better than The Comeback.
like I say, I was watching the best of, so a lot of stuff that you watch, the best of and stuff is going to look good. But yeah, okay, moving on. That's Honey Boo Boo done. All right, okay. Next up, we have some previews and coming to a bicycle near you. Okay, so the first one we have is Paddington, which is out soon.
Okay, whose fault is this?
Is mine.
Steve's, I think.
It's definitely mine. Yeah, you see, I thought Colin Firth was doing the voice for this. And when I started watching it, I was going, that's not him. And then I looked it up, and it turns out that he said, I wasn't really doing it justice. So Ben Wisham, I think his name is.
Wishaw?
Wishaw? Is it Wishaw? Wisham? Yeah, Wishaw. Yeah, you're right. Is doing the voice now. So, yeah, I mean, for a kid's movie, it looks like great fun. Doesn't look like the Paddington I remember, but
I was just going to say, it looks more like a sort of a Americanized version. It's almost like the Garfield movies.
it's, there's a bit of Home Alone in there as well.
Yeah.
That kind of shiny kind of kids movie, all right. Yeah.
What's the movie about, Steve?
Paddington Bear. I don't know where he originates from, or I don't think we're told in the trailer, but
he was found in Paddington Station.
Yeah, they didn't mention that, did they?
Don't know.
Anyway, he's staying at a hotel of some sort, and he proceeds to trash it by the looks of it, just by having very funny mistakes, and tries to make his way around. I presume it's London, or, well, actually, is it New York? I don't know where it's at, actually. I didn't see it. What I didn't see mention of was marmalade, which I thought he'd
Oh, there
he was
is.
addicted to.
There is. He's got his nose in a marmalade jar at one stage.
All right. Yeah. Did you watch this as a kid? Or sorry, midlife.
I encountered it after my second divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
More in book form though than TV form.
Yeah.
This is nothing like the books.
Yeah.
I didn't even like the books. So.
Oh, really? He wasn't a favorite then? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Mike, I think sometimes that I just want to have you know those soundboards apps you can get for various characters? I want to get one of those for you that's just like, and if I ever need a basic review for something that I just want to like boom at somebody, just be like, it's nothing like the books. Just like little stuff like that. It's just like, that wouldn't happen. That's not true. That's not real. Or like, no, that's not the historical. Like, that's not. Guns don't work like that.
That'd be a classic message alert on your phone, actually. I'm going to stick some up on the website. How about that?
Jesus.
Yeah, make memes of Mike. Nothing can go wrong.
Oh God, I'll never be able to log on again.
Yeah. So did you guys see this trailer?
Yeah, in the cinema, a bear did some things by accident, and then he was in an airport, and I remember laughing at a joke. There's a great word joke in this where he's going to an escalator, and there's a sign that says dogs must be carried. So he literalizes it and goes oh, and he goes and finds a dog because he realizes that everyone needs to have one. As opposed to dogs must be carried when you have them. And I thought, that's a very clever English joke. Somebody's very pleased with themselves right now. Oh, they're very, very pleased with themselves right now. And then I went, 2 small claps and said, not going to see your film. It's not for me.
No, I think
so I'm not particularly interested.
Yeah, it's probably aimed at 7 or 8 year olds, I guess. So.
And who knows if they'll like it, because fuck it, it's very colourful. So they're halfway there.
Yeah. So, we're not watching that, is that it?
No, not
I've no idea.
Okay.
Like, please don't make me, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's just not for me. Please don't make me watch it, Steve.
Okay.
Bring a child on the show to review it. I don't care.
Okay, the next one I looked at was Escobar, Paradise Lost, is it? Or Lose? Lost?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's Lost. Paradise Lost.
Yeah. So this is obviously about Pablo and his hippos. Well, no, it's Benedict.
Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah, and
Benicio del Toro.
Thank you. Yeah, Benicio del Toro. Yeah. Yeah. So this is about Pablo getting is it a son-in-law?
Yeah.
A son-in-law.
Canadian son-in-law, it seems.
Yeah.
And poor old son-in-law is put through trials and tribulations of cocaine dealers and smugglers and drug lords, it seems. And all that baggage that comes along with the beautiful wife. Yeah.
Is this based on historical fact, Mike?
I don't know, Sean.
Oh, well, if you just get back to me on that, I'll be here.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, Benicio del Toro looks quite the part.
He does, actually. He's rocking that beard.
Yeah. I still have no interest in seeing the movie, though.
Yeah.
It looks very, very, very dull.
Well, it doesn't look dull, but it kind of looks a bit generic.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I can't see there being too many plot twists or surprises in this, but
yeah, I concur. I think Hutcherson looks to be making a career for himself in action movies. It almost seems. It seems like he wants to prove he can be a guy in a lead role in a thriller. He can go do like Hunger Games. He can go do whatever the fuck he feels like. I'm Josh Hutcherson. You should have cast me as Spider-Man. He's still butthurt about that. You know. You had it in one, Steve. It's very generic. And Mike, you were also correct. Benicio del Toro does look like Pablo Escobar. And that's all I fucking know about Pablo Escobar. Like, I don't know if this movie will educate me. Like, I'm holding up my hand and going, I should know more about this topic, but
you should Google Escobar's hippos, actually. Interesting story there.
Because they're still on the loose, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and they've multiplied, and they've moved like 50 miles down the river as well. Yeah. He had a personal zoo, and the hippos escaped through the river that ran through the lands, apparently. So,
Well, did you know?
There you go.
So when is an endangered species not an endangered species?
When it's dead.
When it's in the wrong fucking continent. Shoot the bastards.
Huge tourist attraction, apparently.
Yeah,
Welcome to Escobar World. Right. And the last one we looked at was the Cobbler. Now, I wasn't going to put this on, but because it's Adam Sandler.
You're still bitter about the pub quiz last week, aren't you?
Yeah. I thought this was going to be another stereotypical Adam Sandler movie, like his last 7 or 8. But then I saw Dustin Hoffman's in it. And who else is in it? There's another big name in there that is escaping me now at the moment. But yeah, it's about a Cobbler, and he discovers when he puts on different shoes that he becomes that person. And so he seems to have fun. What do you think of this?
Oh, no.
Describe it a bit more eloquently than I have.
I think South Park did a thing on this.
Did they?
Yeah, but I can't remember the exact details.
I know exactly what you're fucking talking about. It's Athamo. I come up with movie ideas, and every idea is just Adam Sandler and a few nouns.
Oh,
That's
really?
right. Yeah.
What if Adam Sandler was the mayor of Florida? What if Adam Sandler left his shoes untied and went to the supermarket?
That's exactly the one I'm talking about.
It is indeed a high concept Adam Sandler comedy, and yet a large portion of the trailer skews towards drama. Like, they spend a lot of time with just him and his mum hanging out, which, if it's done right, can give us the kind of emotional resonance that we saw in Click, which took me by surprise. However, the comedy seems to be absent because of how they've made the trailer, or because it seems like it won't be funny, which is unfortunate for a comedy movie. So I don't know how much of a caper it's going to be, or what is going to happen, but I'm very worried about the scene where he essentially tries to rape a woman by dressing up as her husband and getting her to have sex with him. And then the joke payoff is, oh, I can't take off my shoes. Or I turn back into a naked man she doesn't know trying to have sex with her, which is what he is.
Yeah.
It's a bit strange for apparently a kid's, like this is like 12A or whatever.
I'll tell you what lent merit to it was that Steve Buscemi, Dustin Hoffman, and Ellen Barkin are in it also. So, a lot of respect for Steve Buscemi. To go through life looking like that, a lot of respect. Oh, Jesus. So, anyway, so I would be willing to give this a shot, actually.
I would be as well, but Mark isn't.
Yeah. Mark looks
You're
like
correct,
he's
Sean.
like,
Man, I
no
hate
way,
that
man.
guy.
He's like, no way.
I hate that guy so much.
Yeah.
I hate Adam Sandler and his nouns.
Okay, we might save from that. Okay, so I think that's it for this week. Yeah. So, send us in comments. Podcast at isitabicycle.com. Mark.
And don't forget, the bikey season is coming. If there's a film that you think should be in the top 10, or you've got an idea for a funny category that maybe deserves a bicycle award, drop us an email to podcast@isitabicycle.com.
Yeah, we need some inspiration this year. We're sort of running out of them. Anyway, okay, so we'll leave it there. So from Mike, Mark, Stephen, Sean, stay classy.
Fuck you, San Diego.